with Relationship and Health News. We're reporting from the campus of George Washington University, and we're here to break down some of the barriers between shame and guilt. In the United States, shame and guilt are often misidentified as being similar when they actually have several different effects, and one is far better than the other. You have to tune into our report to see which one is the best. First, I'm going to talk about shame. What is shame? Shame is the feeling of distress that comes from perceived feelings of inadequacy. According to a researcher whose last name is Whitehall, he explains that the concept of shame means that an individual perceives himself or herself as being flawed and feels bad about who they are. Shame is incredibly connected to guilt. Again, we will explain some of the differences a bit later. Shame is also connected to a variety of negative outcomes, including addiction and lower life expectancy, among other potent negative effects. Shame is particularly deleterious for children and teenagers. I'm also going to explain a little bit about how the brain processes shame. According to Brene Brown's TED Talk, shame drives two big tapes: never good enough, and if you can talk it out of that one, who do you think you are? Otherwise, shame basically causes a fundamental questioning of oneself and their self-worth, which can be catastrophic for one's self-image. Shame is often deleterious to one's performance and can create lasting issues of confidence. This is perhaps best seen in various instances of sports, as sports is both known for sort of being not ultimately consequential in the real world, and also because a singular moment can affect someone's career and can become what they're known for. I'll begin by examining two examples of this happening. The first example that I will give has a video attached to it. In this video, Bill Buckner, a first baseman for the Red Sox during the 1986 season, misplays a ground ball during the Game 6 of the 1986 World Series between the Red Sox and the Mets. The misplayed ground ball allowed a winning run to come in to score, and the Red Sox eventually lost the series in 7 games. Buckner's career was irrevocably altered by this mistake, and he was forced to retire just only a couple years later after a previously promising career due to lack of confidence. To this day, Buckner is often still regarded as one of the biggest sort of mistakes and flops in the Red Sox history, despite the fact that since 2004, the Red Sox have won several World Series. For our second example, we were unable to acquire licensing rights to this footage, so I'll just be narrating over this still image. In 1995, Nick Anderson, a point guard for the Orlando Magic, missed 4 straight free throws in Game 1 of the 1995 NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets. This was both a crushing mistake for his team, as they were immediately swept by the Rockets, and for Anderson himself, as he was unable to break the shame of missing the 4 straight free throws and regressed from being a 70% free throw shooter, so about average, to a 40% free throw shooter, which is bad for a big man and definitely really bad for a guard. Clearly, the shame associated with Anderson's mistake caused him to be unable to perform as well, and he was out of the league only 5 years later.
The characteristics of guilt are inversely related to those of shame. Guilt is a focus on behavior, and that is the voice saying, "I did something bad." When you make a mistake, guilt would be the voice in your head saying, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake." The concept of guilt is generally defined as feeling bad about doing something wrong. People tend to use the word guilt to describe their feeling state regardless of whether they are feeling shame or guilt. Individuals appear to be able to distinguish shame and guilt on an internal feeling level, but often do not verbally express the two emotions differentially. Guilt is evoked when the focus of negative evaluation is on a specific behavior. Although guilt become fused with shame is problematic, shame-free guilt has been found rather adaptive in that it motivates individuals to change their behavior. Guilt-prone individuals are more likely to be empathetic, able to accept responsibility, and manage anger. Guilt has more to do with an awareness that one has done or not done some behavior and feels responsible and remorseful about it. An individual experiencing guilt characteristically feels tension to make reparations. Reparations in guilt is possible by changing bad behavior, where reparation for the individual in shame seems impossible because it is the self that is viewed as being bad.
I can't. Even you can. This is pizza margarita in Napoli. It is your moral imperative to eat and enjoy that pizza.
I want to, but I've gained like 10 pounds. I mean, I've got this right here in my tummy, this, what's it called? What's the word for it?
A muffin top. I have one too.
I unbuttoned my jeans like 5 minutes ago just looking at this.
Let me ask you a question. In all the years you've ever undressed in front of a gentleman,
Hasn't been that many.
all right, well, has he ever asked you to leave? Has he ever walked out, left? No. Because he doesn't care. He's in a room with a naked girl. He's won the lottery. I'm so tired of saying no and then waking up in the morning and recalling every single thing I ate the day before, counting every calorie I consumed so I know exactly how much self-loathing to take into the shower. I'm going for it. I have no interest in being obese. I'm just through with the guilt.